Hey guys, so it's been a while since I last did a distribution video, and I thought I might give Manjaro Linux a go. So this is Manjaro XFCE edition, the 0.9.0 pre-release edition, so this is not the final build of it, so please bear that in mind. If I come across any bugs, that's not really sort of going to be the final product. Actually, in light of that, I have been unable to install this to my virtual machine for testing, so we're only going to be looking at the live CD today. I have had the same problem, or a very similar problem, with Ubuntu 14.10 when I did the initial tests for that, so or the initial sort of first impressions reviews. So I think that it's quite a common thing with just running distributions in virtual machines. So the reason I am testing Manjaro, because this is one that I haven't gone over before, is because it says here in its release notes, almost 1 month passed since our last preview of our next stable release, Manjaro 0.9.0. This build ships XFCE most closely to the upcoming 4.12 release. Then our file manager finally supports tabs and other cool features like inverting the selection, improves on location handling, and the shortcuts side pane. On the panel we now have a pop-up calendar that supports time zones. The settings area has improved display settings with the ability to clone displays via the GUI and other basic monitor management options. Last but not least, the window manager has smart placement optimizations for determining the best area to place a new window where it's least covered on the screen. It also now supports aligning windows next to each other rather than using random gaps. So, I will of course link to all of this information down in the description below. But let's actually crack on with the operating system itself. Now this is the live CD, and it comes up with a reasonably nice looking initial menu. So we can start Manjaro Linux. It also gives us the option to start with non-free drivers, or which is an interesting option there, but we can start the default one because I know this one works. Now, like I said, I've been unable to install it, but the live CD does work, so that gives me a chance to not only look at XFCE as a desktop environment, but also the software bundle, and talk a little bit about Manjaro and my thoughts on it. So, Manjaro is based on Arch Linux, and Arch has a bit of a reputation. It has a reputation of being a Linux distribution really for advanced Linux users that are comfortable with the command line, Linux users that are comfortable knowing what software it is they're running and how to fix it should things go wrong. And because of that, that it has this reputation for being for advanced users, it also has very, very, very well maintained software repositories that run very new versions of the software, which at times can be seen as being a little bit unstable, although many Arch users will be adamant that their system is as stable as any others. And I would personally argue that that's in part because the person running the system in question knows what they're doing, and knows what they're doing very, very well, hence why Arch does have at least a very advanced and knowledgeable user base. So I think that certainly helps with it being a very, very credible distribution and very good at filling its niche. It does so very, very, very well. So it's a rolling distribution, which means that different parts of the distribution are updated as per newer versions become available, and Manjaro is based on the Linux repositories. So with that in mind, initial impressions, this looks very, very polished. This is a very nice looking desktop environment. So it comes with a very traditional Windows-esque paradigm. So you've got your menu down here. Now this is the XFCE panel that I think we're somewhat familiar with by now. The icons and the theme just look absolutely delightful. They've really taken some time to actually make this look nice, and perhaps, well, at least in my case, as a pretty much an intermediate Linux user, I've always been somewhat intimidated by Arch, in the sense that I know that I'm going to have to sit down, read a lot of manuals, know a lot more about the software that I'm going to use. This seems like a good ambassador for Arch as a Linux distribution. It seems like a very good ambassador in the sense that it's offering an olive branch. It's making it easier to get an Arch system up and running, so that you can become more familiar with the intricacies of how Arch is put together, and the differences between Arch and more, say, mainstream distributions like Ubuntu and the Ubuntu family, for example. So Yes, very, very polished. So let's take a look at, let's crack open File Manager, which is Thunar as usual. So smart window placement, or at least with the tiling settings, this is nice. We see this in KDE, but XFCE has now brought it to the table. So if you drag a window like this to the top right corner, you get the top right quadrant of the screen filled up. And then you can drag it out, and it's the same as normal. You can also do that, but if you do it to the middle section, the sort of the middle on the right, then you've got a 50% split. If you take it to the middle of the top, you've got a full maximized window there. That is a fully maximized window. And then you can also drag that same thing, it goes there. That's nice, that's nice. Okay, so intelligent hiding panels is something that they're boasting. Now, I haven't seen this on any other desktop environment. I could be wrong. So let's bring that about. So at the moment, we've got a pretty standard panel. This is what you'd expect from maybe something like Linux Mint, really. This is what it kind of reminds me of. Maybe it's got something to do with the green color. Maybe it's the start bar at the bottom, which I do kind of like. It's one bar, doesn't take up too much screen real estate, and it's a familiar paradigm. So if we just sort of put the window down there, we can see that the taskbar is overlaying it, as you would expect. That's fine. When you maximize it, taskbar's there at the bottom. So let's go to the panel. Let's go to panel preferences, and instead of having automatically hide the panel, let's do it intelligently. Okay, so now when we maximize Thunar, it covers the entire screen, or it auto hides it rather, which is that's not bad. That's not bad at all. And don't get me wrong, this isn't the primary use of why an intelligently hiding panel is useful. It's useful when you want to have multiple panels on the screen, but when you have a maximized window, you don't want it eating up all your screen real estate. A good example of this would be a left, a side taskbar with maybe some of your favorite icons on, maybe like a second one, either on the top or on the opposite side that might have your tasks on. However you want, however you want to lay up your desktop environment, it gives you more options. Also, if you drag the window down here, it hides as well. And when I say hides, I mean auto hides as well. So it's not like it's down and out. I like that. I can't think off the top of my head too many uses for it, but I know that people who run XFCE do like a good bit of customization, and that, as far as I'm concerned, takes it to another level. So fantastic there. So we have another thing that XFCE finally brings to the table, tabs in Thunar, which is something that you kind of sort of would have expected by now, but there you go. Also, I don't know if you can see this or if this is coming across to you watching this on YouTube, but it still feels just as snappy as any other XFCE. It doesn't feel like they've lost, they've skipped a beat at all. Okay, so what else is there? Let's have a look at the desktop settings, because this is one. They say they've expanded multi-monitor support, so there's some really nice. It comes bundled with some nice background themes. Now, I've only got this on a single display at the moment, so I can't demonstrate the multi-monitor support for different wallpapers, but I can show you multi-desktop support for it. Oops, did I not? Oh, that's me being slow, isn't it? Automatically hide the panel? Never. There we go. Okay. So there's this checkbox here, apply to all workspaces. So if I go to that, that's workspace 2, that's workspace 1, same wallpaper for both. But if we uncheck that, move this dialog to the workspace you want to edit settings for. So what we can do is we can move to another workspace, and then we can pick some nice flowers here. So now we have two different workspaces, two different wallpapers. I've always liked this. I particularly like it on multiple monitors. I like it again on multiple workspaces, simply because it can remind you which workspace you're on. Again, it's not a deal breaker or anything, but And I like a variety of wallpapers as well. Good aesthetics. I think it's nice to have them in the system. So that's just a quick rundown of some of the new features in the upcoming XFCE's newest release. I'm going to link you to a video. Spatry's Cup of Linux did a much more in-depth view in the features of the new XFCE in Manjaro Linux, actually. So he covers them in significantly more detail. This is only going to be a bit of a brief overview. So yeah, link will be down there in the description. So the thing that I will talk about now, last but by no means least, is Manjaro itself, particularly the bundled software. So it comes with your regular old that's a nice looking terminal, but that is the good old XFCE 4 terminal. So this isn't the final release of 0.12. This is still 0.10, but it's as close to 0.12 as it's going to get. It's close to 0.12 in the capacity that it's going to be rolled out for the final release by the looks of it. And Manjaro does seem to be a distribution that does want to showcase the latest XFCE, and I've got admiration for it. Manjaro also comes in a KDE variant as well, which I'm glad to see, because as you guys are probably aware, I'm a big fan of KDE. I'm also a big fan of XFCE, actually, and knowing that it's now back in full swing after something of a 2 or 3 year hiatus, me switching back to XFCE is not, it is a possibility at this point, because I do like the snappiness, and I do like that it's just a little bit more simple. This theme, it looks really polished. Anyway, I'm rambling now. So the one of the things I really do like about Manjaro is they've included the Steam installer. Not being a Debian-based distribution, I was wondering how easy it would be to install Steam. So I've given this a bit of a test. I've only managed to just get Steam up and running. I've not done any more than that, but it does work, and it works as planned from my personal experience, and I think that's great. The fact that has, and I'm going to be keeping an eye out for that feature for distributions that aren't Debian based, to see if they've actually taken the time to actually get Steam working on it. The reason for that is because it just opens your distribution up to so many more games, and if there's too much tinkering involved with trying to get Steam to work, then there are going to be it's going to incentivize people to move back to Debian-based distributions, and I think there is a lot of potential in Manjaro. So anyway, the rest of the bundle. So yeah, glad to see Steam there. I'll talk a little bit more about the repositories in a second. GNU image manipulation program, good to see that there. That's a solid choice. There's GIMP, that's basically the open source Photoshop, which I think is a fantastic piece of software. You've got Pigeon, you've got Firefox, always a good choice. You got VNC, which is a bit of an unusual choice. I guess it might be commonly used among Manjaro's user base, which is fine. Thunderbird, of course. So these are all good choices. Multimedia comes with VLC. XFburn is a great burning utility just for getting your CDs burnt. Comes with LibreOffice. So that is, as far as it comes with Bluetooth Manager, good accessibility. Thunar, of course. So that's a good software bundle. That's the software bundle I think is very similar to Linux Mint, and that's one of the reasons why I like, I hold Linux Mint in such high regard. This is basically the Linux Mint for Arch, and I don't know how many people are going to react negatively to that statement, but I consider it to be a great sort of a compliment and a great impression that I'm getting from this distribution. It's nice to see a version of Arch which, on the surface, it looks full-on newbie friendly, whereas maybe something sort of intermediate friendly would have been just as suitable. But this looks like anyone can pick it up and use it. So, in regards to the long-term stability of using the Arch repositories, it'll be interesting to see how that pans out, especially if the Manjaro user base is perhaps not as adamantly knowledgeable about the software that it uses as your usual Arch user. But again, only time will tell on that one. One final thing now that I want to show you, because one of the reputations that Arch has picked up, so it comes with Adobe Flash as well. So this is This is very impressive. This is a good out of the box installation. So I've got to give them credit for that. They know the software that people are going to use. There are a few, like for example the Qt4 designer and things like that. Not entirely sure why that's there on an XFCE build. Again, software that's there that doesn't need to be is less of a problem than software that's not there that does need to be. But okay, so what am I looking for? I'm looking for system add remove software. So it's got a nice package manager. It's perhaps not the most newbieist friendly package manager going. It's very similar to Synaptic, but it does exactly what you want. In fact, to be honest, it won't be too difficult to work out. Now, I looked for two packages, two pieces of software that are not available on Ubuntu, but are available in the Arch repositories. Simple Screen Recorder, which is the piece of software that I am using to record this very video. Fantastic piece of software. I believe it's still not out of beta, but it's the most stable piece of video record or screen capturing software that I've ever seen. Here we go. It comes right there. Simple Screen Recorder. Feature-rich recorder that supports X11 and OpenGL. And it gives you, of course, a link to the website and even the license. This to install this in Ubuntu, you need to install a third-party PPA, which is no great shakes. It's no great bother, but it's nice to see that this is included in the Arch repos. And like I say, the Arch repos are well known for being very well maintained and having a wider selection of software that even Ubuntu has. And the second one is Open Broadcast Software, which allows you to do live streaming and also recording in Linux as well. This is, again, I think it's still in alpha or possibly beta. So again, it's still in its early stages, and I think that Linux has been lacking behind, or it's been behind Windows in regards to things like video editing software and screen capturing software. It's catching up, though. It's catching up. So and it's getting better day on day. So it's exciting times for us content creators here on YouTube. And Let's Players and the like. But OBS is one such piece of software which I do use. It's very, very good, even in its early stages. And here we go. OBS Studio. I think this is the one that you use. Free and open source software for video recording and live streaming. Again, if you wanted to install this in Ubuntu, you'd need a third-party PPA. Not a big problem to install, but it's a bit of a chore. It's something that you'd expect Ubuntu to pick up on, and maybe it's got something to do with the fact that both OBS and Simple Screen Recorder are not, they're still technically in beta or pre-release versions. That being said, though, I'd like to see OBS and Screen Recorder in the Ubuntu repos. I'm glad that they're in the Arch ones. But that being said, I think that might have something to do with the precedent that Arch as a distribution expects you to know what you're doing, whereas Ubuntu is a bit more. It's a bit more idiot-proof. Not completely idiot-proof, but a little bit more. Anyway, that's going to be about it from me today. I've got to say, even though this is a pre-release version of Manjaro, very, very impressed with it. I really want to see this one flourish. It's currently the 13th most popular distribution on distrowatch.com, and considering that there hasn't been like a proper final 1.0 release, they've all been 0 point something. So considering there has yet to be a 1.0 release, getting up to 13th place on distrowatch.com is a real achievement. And once it gets into full swing, we are going to see a wonderful distribution here. This is a champion in the making, and it's not got much further to go. I am excited by XFCE, lots of new features, and it's glad to see that program and desktop environment, getting back in the game. I think that it is better than Mate or Mate, or however you want to pronounce it. I think that it's definitely a good contender for the best best desktop environment, because XFCE is good. It's what I turned to when GNOME 2 didn't have multi-monitor support, and and XFCE did. So there's that. XFCE, I initially used XFCE as my primary desktop environment because it had more features than GNOME or GNOME 2. Anyway, that's about it for me today. Thank you very, very much for watching. Let me know what you think on Manjaro if you've got any experience with it, and feel free to strike up a conversation about Arch. Whenever I mention it, there's always a lot of people that are willing to share their experiences with Arch and talk about how great it is as a Linux distribution, because it is. I mean, it fills its niche incredibly well. But its niche is definitely more advanced Linux users, and I think Manjaro is it looks like an attempt to bring Arch, or at least Arch-based distributions, more into the mainstream, and it's looking like it's doing a fantastic job. That's about it from me today. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, I've been Chris Ware, and you've been awesome. Take care now.